Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. That's Scotty. We've got a bit of breaking news that we're bringing you now. Sky have just reported that Sir Jim Ratcliffe could be about to change his offer for Manchester United. So I'll get into it and explain what's going on, because we just saw this literally breaking a minute ago, or like 10 minutes ago. There was sort of Sir Jim Ratcliffe started trending, and you think, okay, why is he trending? What's going on? What's all this? What's all the latest? And it looks like there could be a bit of a change in the approach he's going to do for Manchester United, which isn't necessarily a good thing as well. The news coming out of Sky is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's contemplating buying a minority stake in United rather than seeking full control at Old Trafford in an attempt to conclude the 10 months long process to determine the future ownership of the club. Ratcliffe's latest proposal is understood to envisage buying some of the shares, some of the A shares held by the stock market investors, as well as a chunk of the more powerful shares owned by the Glazer family. It is unclear whether this latest proposal will gather momentum. So this came from Mark Kleinman. Now, Mark Kleinman is the Sky News City editor, so he does all the sort of business stuff and all that jazz. So he's done 2 tweets. So I'll just give you his actual tweets rather than the tweets reporting what he's saying. He says, exclusive, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the Ineos Petrochemicals billionaire, is contemplating buying a minority stake in Manchester United Football Club rather than seeking full control at Old Trafford in an effort to conclude the 10 months long process to determine its future ownership. Ratcliffe's latest proposal is understood to envisage buying some of the A shares held by the stock market investors, as well as a chunk of the more powerful B shares owned by the Glazer family. It is unclear whether this latest proposal will gain momentum. Now, Sky have also got a story on this. It goes on to say this offer would entail making an offer at the same price for both sets of shares, with one suggestion on Monday evening being that Sir Jim could seek a roughly 25% stake in the club as part of his latest proposal. It would need to be pitched at a valuation that the Glazers would accept, implying that Ineos Sports could spend in the region of $1.5 billion if it was to acquire a quarter of United shares, based on earlier reports that they were seeking a minimum valuation of $6 billion. If such a deal was to be implemented, however, the Glazers would almost certainly remain in control at Old Trafford, having taken the control of the club in 2005. Then it gives you probably the most obvious sentence I've ever read in my life. That would anger United supporters, who have been vocal in their opposition to the family's continued ownership, and would in turn raise a series of further questions about the club's future. Scotty, what do you make of this latest news? I mean, we don't know yet, do we? We don't know how this is going to go. We don't know whether this is going to see him be successful, buy a quarter of the club or whatever. But the way it's being sort of touted there by Sky is almost like, well, he buys 25%, he spends $1.5 billion, and the Glazers stick around.
Well, the article said the billionaire is mulling over an idea. So the actual news is the man has an idea of changing his offer, really. So there's nothing concrete in it. But I understand that a lot of Manchester United fans will feel a frustration if this is the sort of deal that goes through, because everybody obviously wants a full sale only. But I also think that most of us were sort of resigned to the Glazers not going for 2 years now, after the sort of reports that will come maybe a month or so ago with the sort of increase they're expecting to generate from a sale in 2025. What's interesting with this is Manchester United are going to get 1.5 billion, or are the Glazers going to get 1.5 billion from this offer? Right. Because that's what when I should do the maths. So for a quarter of it, are the club getting that? Is that going to be put into the leaking roof at Old Trafford, at Carrington, to with all the sort of transfer market? Yeah. Is that or is it getting pocketed? That's where the question marks. United fans have long been out of control, and I admire our protest to try and get the Glazers out. But the futile. So sometimes we've got to look at the things in a longer picture. 2003. The Glazers, I think, of 2.89% stake they first got in, and then crept up then towards buying the club in 2005. Now, this could be Jim Ratcliffe saying that he realises that he's not got a chance of getting a deal over the line at the moment, because the Glazers strictly aren't going to budge here and now. This gives them 25% in it. We can build over the next sort of 2 years, or have more money then or have a greater stake to try and buy into it, rather than sort of leaving it up to do a bidding war again in 2 years' time. So you've got to look at, is he trying to play the long game here? It's frustrating. Everybody wants the full sale, but I don't think that's going to happen. So if it's going to be over the next 2-3 years, we get a new owner, and that happens, then it can only be a positive thing.
Yeah, it goes on to say, I'll go through this article, great point now, I'll go through this article. It says, one uncertainty on Monday evening related to the extent to which the Glazers and their advisors at Rain Group were engaged with Sir Jim on his minority stake proposal. So again, there's a lot of conjecture here and vagueness. Don't forget as well, a lot of these proposals and these discussions are under NDAs. You can't say anything about them. It's like you're going to get sued if you do. So we don't know how much information is actually out there. It says the family who paid just under 800 million in 2005 has remained inscrutable throughout the process and has said nothing of substance to the New York Stock Exchange since the process of engaging with prospective buyers kicked off last November. Another would be whether an offer to bring Sir Jim in as a major shareholder would raise any new capital to invest in the club, which is what you're asking, which is working towards a major renovation of Old Trafford. So is this going to help that happen? The structure of an offer to acquire a minority stake is also unclear, with one analysis suggesting it could be undertaken through a process known as a tender offer. Bloomberg News reported last week that Ineos was looking to restructure its bid without specifying details of how this would be achieved. Some holders of the publicly traded stock called A shares have raised concerns about Sir Jim's previous proposals, which focus on acquiring a majority stake in the club by buying shares from the 6 Glazer siblings who own the class of B shares, which carry disproportionate voting rights. Another uncertainty, there's uncertainty on top of uncertainty here, would centre on whether a minority deal, if agreed and implemented, would give Ineos Sports an eventual path to full control of Manchester United. So that's the big question here. Is this a step towards having full control of Manchester United, or is this just the case of, look, let's just get some of the club rather than all of it, and then at least we own a bit of Manchester United and we can do without what we will. It's a bit vague, and it's, like you say, it's not even set in stone that this is going to go ahead or that we're going to see the Glazers accept it. This is just being brought by Sky News as a proposal being put forward by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. They've put it as an exclusive that this is something he's thinking about doing, buying a minority stake, when from what we gathered from the initial reports on Sir Jim Ratcliffe was that he wanted to buy a 69% stake. That was what all the talk was. Buy a 69% stake, and that could be structured where he buys some now and some later in certain sort of suggestions, whereas now what we're saying is one of the suggestions, or this new alternative offer, could be he buys a quarter of Manchester United with the Glazers staying on. Get involved in the comments in the chat. Let us know what you think. Kieran says, I'm past caring with this club now. I don't think the Glazers will ever sell. They're just fooling all of us. Hydro says, all it's doing is adding another billionaire muppet to the fold. Kadabra says, bro, he is 70. SB14 says, a vanity project for a 70-year-old. Gareth Day says, giving the Glazers $1 billion, the Rats worse than the Glazers. I mean, news like this. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's had a bit of an issue, hasn't he, with some fans of winning him over, like over the last sort of year or so. When he initially was linked with the club, loads of people liked him. They thought he's the answer to all our problems. Then, as sort of more and more stories came out about the Glazers staying on, about him wanting to buy 69% rather than full sale, and all this other stuff, it seems like he's not as popular with a certain amount of fans as he was.
But you can only buy a club based on how the person wants to sell it. Do you know what I mean? So if he thinks the only way that he can acquire the club, because it's evident that they can't buy it for $6 billion because they've not accepted the offer. So he's obviously, you don't become a billionaire from, where is it, from Oldham way?
Yeah,
Failsworth, right? From a billionaire from there by not being a shrewd businessman. So he's obviously, he'll have his advisors that are giving the lay of the land saying, right, well, the Glazers aren't going to sell all that, and it's probably not best for our business model in the here and now if we go into 69 and keep them in because they still want to keep the fingers in the pockets of Manchester United for a few more years, and then we can buy them out then. This looks like that in reverse. There's no way that he's coming in, if this is true, at 25% with it just being an eye of, I'm just going to keep a quarter of Manchester United. Because why would he want to buy the club in the first place? Why would he have not come in with that straight away? This looks
like... you think this is 100%, if it's true, him as a sort of step towards full ownership?
Yeah, but if you look at the other football clubs, they own all outright, don't they? I'm pretty sure they do, they're Ineos. And people mentioned there about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's age. It's the brothers as well, aren't there? Which doesn't bode well. The Ratcliffe brothers that own Ineos.
I thought it was his mates, wasn't it?
Is it
Was it
mates?
his mates? Yeah, I think I might be wrong. I thought he's
mates
got
like that.
Yeah, he's got mates. I think who he owns it with, and I know he's got a load of sons. I don't think they own. I don't think they own it, or they might give him shares because.
Well, it's a business anyway,
yeah.
So it's not Sir Jim Ratcliffe's. It'd be Ineos's if they do buy Manchester United.
It does to me. It would seem a bit of a strange move to come in and spend £1.5 billion on keeping the Glazers in the club that you purport to love and want to do the best for. And I know he's come out in the past and said the Glazers have been good owners for Manchester United, but I think there's a little bit of that where he can't slag him off because he's trying to buy the club off him. I don't know, man. It's not just the initial sort of story is breaking. It doesn't look great, does it? But I think you have to scratch beneath the surface. It's going to get a lot of people's backs up if they think he's offering the Glazers an opportunity to stay on longer than the initial 2 or 3 years, which is what we thought his bid would say. Mirat PS says Qatar only chance of a full sale, it seems. Troy Taylor says he's a bum if he allows the Glazers to stay. However, Glazer says getting his foot in the door makes sense to Sir Jim, makes no sense to us fans, as it means the Glazers are still there. Not acceptable. Kevin Good says, if Rat makes this offer official, we will very shortly have to see how serious the Qataris are. I'm glad we have movement. This is Sir Jim recognising he was dead in the water with his first offer. So it did go stale, didn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe he's thinking, look, I need to give this some sort of a kick up the backside. Let's come in with this. Let's get something going. Maybe there is a bit of that. We don't know, do we? We just know that there seems to have been a bit of alteration. Hit that like button as well, people. I know you might not like the fact that maybe this looks like Glazer, but you can like the video. For anyone who's just joined us, this is from Sky News reporting this. Mark Kleiman from Sky saying exclusive that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is contemplating buying a minority stake in Manchester United Football Club. So we'll have to wait and see, because it's been back and forth, haven't there? There was the report in Bloomberg about a different offer. There's been reports in the Times. There's been reports elsewhere. Ben Jacobs obviously has been all over it. At one point it looked like Sir Jim was the front runner. Then it looked like it was going to be Sheikh Jassim. We had a story, I think, from Custis that everyone just ignored the other day, didn't they? He said, it's going to be done in the next 2 weeks that the Qataris are going to buy.
I've had so many of them, though, haven't you, where he said, is it breaking, something's going to happen this week, and then it's just tumbleweed. But this it is like
Custis has done it twice where he's gone, usually after a bad result, he's gone exclusive. The Qataris are going to be in next week, and it's like tomorrow, and it's like...
It's usually around international football when there's nothing to talk about.
Exactly, and you take that with a massive pinch of salt. Danny Shields says, problems you're not dealing with shrewd business people in the Glazers. Their wealth's based on landlord model of owning property, leasing it, collecting. He's been a member of the first team for 33 months. Also, as well, the thing you got to remember with the Glazers, when you write about them not being shrewd business people, they inherited this. They weren't savvy enough to buy Manchester United. Malcolm Glazer bought United. Now, you might disagree with the way he went around it, and I do, but he managed to make that work and happen. Darcy, Trevor, Bob, and Joel and Avram, whatever the rest of the people are called, they didn't. They just got given it when Daddy died. So it's not like these are piece of people where you go, you can at least admire their business acumen. No, you can't, because they just inherited this and they've done nothing but run it into the ground ever since.
All the billionaires that I know have very rich lawyers and financial advisors. It's not like they're at home mulling it over a cup of tea. Well, what should we do with that bill? You know what I mean? They will have like the most elite financial advisors involved in this. It isn't just going to be them. So I get the frustrations, and I'm with 99% of United fans, and I want a full sale. But if that ain't happening, it ain't happening, and there's nothing you can do about it. So if we're only getting 25% rid of him, if we're getting a quarter of them gone, then it's a quarter at a time, you know.
Well,
you can only eat a pizza slice by slice.
This looks like, very true. This looks like it could be a move as well to placate some of the other shareholders, because there was talk that they were unhappy, they were threatening legal action, because he'd said to Jim Ratcliffe that he was just going to buy the Glazers shares as part of this takeover and not theirs, because don't forget the Qatari bid was meant to be a full, like, I'm going to buy everything. His was, I'm only buying these. So that looked like it had upset a lot of the shareholders who were the Glazers. So there was a bit of intrigue going on there as to whether they were going to take legal action. I'll get through some of the comments. Let us know what you think. Brian Casey says, anyone else think this is just a reactionary story to the Qatari story yesterday? It might be. There might be him briefing the press in reaction to that. Sanket Kumar says, no, full sale only. Stop going to matches. Learn from Ajax. Don Parkinson's agreeing with Brian Casey, says, absolutely, this news is nothing new. Henry Cote says, nonsense, full sale is urgent. I'm going to wrap it up there. Scotty, just give us your final thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, full sale only, that's what we all want, but unfortunately we don't decide what's going to happen with Manchester United. My concern is, if that comes off, where is the £1.5 billion going? Is it going
Maybe
into
they can
club?
fix the roof. That'd be a good start, wouldn't it? That'd be nice.
How much is the slate?
Hey, I'd love to go to the game and not get rained on.
Yeah.
Or peed on like Alexa. That's a different story.
He gets wet from all angles.
Yeah, that's a different story for a different podcast. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat. We're going to wrap it up there. Bit of breaking news. Sir Jim Ratcliffe with a new offer. It looks like there could be a new offer on the horizon to buy a minority stake in Manchester United. As always, we'll keep you posted on any developments. That's been Scotty. I'm Jay Moy. Thanks for watching.